And we are back to Indian in the Cupboard. And I just realized the middle of this book has pictures from the movie. If you've never seen it, if you haven't seen it, remember, wait till we're done with the book. Okay, so we are on chapter 6, which is titled The Chief is Dead, Long Live the Chief. And just to kind of catch us up, Omri had purchased a little plastic chief from the neighborhood store, brought it home, and now he is going to put it in the cupboard to get the bow and arrow from it for Little Bear. Okay. And Little Bear asked him if he could make the feathers real also. Okay, Little Bear looked doubtful, but he nodded. Make real, then see. Omri shut the Indian chief into the cupboard. Before he turned the key, he leaned down to where Little Bear was examining the, to him, enormous pots of paint. Little Bear, are you lonely? Huh? Would you like a friend? God friend, said the Indian, jerking his head toward the horse. I meant another Indian. Little Bear looked up swiftly, his hands still. There was a long silence. Wife? He asked at last. No, it's a man, said Omri. The chief. Not once, said Little Bear immediately, and went back to his work with the bent head. Omri was disappointed. He had thought it might be fun to have 2 Indians, but somehow he couldn't do anything Little Bear didn't want. He would have to treat this chief as he had treated the knight, grab the weapons, and turn them back into plastic again at once. Only this time it wasn't quite so easy. When he opened the cupboard, the chief was still sitting on the shelf, looking about him in bewilderment, blinking as the light struck his eyes. Omri saw at once that he was a very old man, covered in wrinkles. He took the bow out of his hands quite easily, but the quiver full of arrows was hung around him on a leather thong, and as for actually lifting the feathered headdress clean off his gray old head, Omri found he just couldn't bring himself to do it. It seemed so rude. The old man gazed up at him blankly at first, and then with dawning terror. But he didn't get up and he didn't speak, though Omri saw his lips moving and noticed he had hardly any teeth. Omri somehow felt he should offer the old chief some friendly word to reassure him. So he held up one hand, as white men sometimes did in films when they were treating Indian chiefs with politeness, and said, How? The old Indian lifted a trembling hand, and then suddenly he slumped onto his side. Little Bear, quick! Get onto my hand! Omri reached down, and Little Bear climbed onto his hand from the longhouse roof. What? The old Indian, I think he's fainted. Uh-oh, I hope it's not what I think with the title of this chapter. He carried Little Bear to the cupboard, and Little Bear stopped off onto the shelf. He stooped beside the crumpled figure. Taking the single feather out of the back of his own headband, he held it in front of the old man's mouth. Then he shook his head. Dead, he said. No breath. Heart stop. Old man. Gone to ancestors. Very happy. Without more ado, he began to strip the body, taking the headdress, the arrows, and the big, richly decorated cloak for good measure. Omri was shocked. Little Bear, stop. Surely you shouldn't. Chief dead. I only other Indian here. No one else to be chief. Little Bear chief now, he said, whirling the cloak about his own bare shoulders and clapping the splendid circle of feathers onto his head with a flourish. He picked up the quiver. Omri, give bow, he commanded, and it was a command. Omri obeyed it without thinking. Now, you make magic. Deer for Little Bear hunt. Fire for cook. Good meat. He folded his arms, scowling up at Omri. Omri was quite taken aback by all of this. While giving Little Bear every respect as a person, he was not about to be turned into his slave. He began to wonder if giving him those weapons, let alone letting himself make himself into a chief, was such a good idea. Now look here, Little Bear, he began in a teacherish tone. Omri! It was his father's voice fairly roaring at him from the foot of the stairs. Omri jumped, bumping the cupboard. Little Bear fell over backward, considerably spoiling his dignity. Yes? Come down here this instant! Omri had no time for courtesies. He snatched Little Bear up, set him down near his half-finished longhouse, shut and locked the cupboard, and ran downstairs. His father was waiting for him. Omri, have you been in the greenhouse lately? And did you, while you were there, remove a seed tray planted out with marrow seeds, may I ask? Well, yes or no? Well, yes, but... And is it possible that in addition you've been hacking at the trunk of the birch and torn off strips of bark? But Dad, it was only... Don't you know trees can die if you strip too much of their bark off? It's like their skin. As for the seed tray, that is mine. You've no business taking things from the greenhouse, and you know it. Now I want it back, and you better not have disturbed the seeds, or heaven help you. Omri swallowed hard. He and his father stared at each other. I can't give it back, he said at last, but I'll buy you another tray and some more seeds. I've got enough money, please. Omri's father had a quick temper, especially about anything concerning the garden, but he was not unreasonable, and above all, he was not the sort to pry into his children's secrets. He realized at once that his seed tray, as a seed tray, was lost to him forever, and that it was no use hectoring Omri about it. All right, he said, you can go to the hardware shop and buy them, but I want them today. Omri's face fell. Today? But it's nearly 5 o'clock now. Precisely. Be off. So that is the end of chapter 6. So tomorrow I will be reading chapter 7. Let me see. It's another kind of long chapter, so it'll probably be broken into 2, but the name of it is Uninvited Brothers. So I'm thinking maybe Omri's brothers start trying to come in and see what's going on in Omri's room. So that is the end of chapter 6. I will be uploading it tonight. It's Thursday. It is kind of late. It's about 8:30. I apologize for the late time. So I hope you enjoy it, and tomorrow will be chapter 7.